Geraldine, you're like one of my absolute go-to people when I'm losing my shit. And like I'm not losing my shit right now. I'm like handling my shit. But there's a lot of shit. Let's be clear. There's a lot of shit. And it's been an opportunity for me to find compassion and peace dealing with someone where there's an appropriate amount of anger. Like the way that my landlady is handling this, it is fucking appropriate to be angry. And one of the things, Geraldine, you know, I've been working on is reconnecting with my appropriate anger. At a young age, I stopped letting myself feel angry because I decided it was bad and I shut it down. So I've been reconnecting with anger. So I'm like, okay, it's appropriate for me to feel anger, use that energy constructively, and be in a place of peace and do this work with peace and love and compassion, you know, getting out of this situation as soon as possible with blessings. So that's what I'm practicing as I clean, as I like reorganizing. Luckily, we live in Westchester and the house has got a lot of space. So there's all these big closets. And so I'm cleaning out the closets. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be the camping stuff closet because the camping stuff used to be in the garage. The camping stuff can no longer be in the garage. So this closet, camping stuff closet. This closet, hacked closet. And then the big equipment is going in the garage. Such a pleasure. So that's been the last 24 hours of my life. And I've canceled everything except this. Because Geraldine, you are golden. So how are you? How are you? Where are you? How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm in New Jersey. Yeah, I'm in New Jersey with my family. I'm here with my elder aunt and uncle. I miss the community. I miss the work. I miss New York City. But I'm doing okay. I'm using this time to do a lot of self-study, a lot of quiet time and meditation, a lot of writing, a lot of reevaluating how I'm showing up in this world and how I want to repivot. And also not knowing when we can get back to work in terms of particularly massage therapy and hands-on work. Like that seems like it's going to be who knows when. Really looking at ways that I can offer healing without the touch. So it's been a deep exploration in terms of what that would look like.
Well, I know firsthand your powers are well beyond what you do with your hands. So I'm excited that this is forcing you to go into that exploration because I know the world will be a better place thanks to that.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam, for saying that. That's confirmation for sure. I'm sad to hear that HACKD is no longer in that space. We didn't get to say proper farewell to the four walls, but I know it was time for sure. It was time. I'm excited to learn of where HACKD will rebirth itself.
Yeah, and you and I haven't really caught up. One of the ideas I'm so excited to share with you because you are someone who I very much would want to be involved with this vision, but it's around opening up a retreat center, maybe in the New Paltz, like upstate New York area, and having it be, you know, a holistic wellness, biohacking retreat center, and also an intentional community. So allowing artists to come, healers to come, creatives to come, anyone to come who wants to reconnect with the land and an intentional community with the intention of it being this sustainable, really holistic community. And so that's a really, really fun project that is definitely, you know, satiating my need to grow and need to create, even though obviously we're in this forced period of constriction and reevaluation and pivoting. But it's definitely something that you're one of the first people that's like, oh, Geraldine will have to come and do things. She'll have to come and do things.
I'll happily do things. I'll happily do things.
Come do things. I don't know what. Just come do things. Yeah,
I mean,
your massage therapy is amazing. And as someone who is sensitive to energy and doing inner work that is very energetic and emotional, and you know, I'm sensitive to feeling the releases, not just on the physical level, but on the emotional level, and the deeper energetic, you know, subtle spiritual level. and I know a lot of people don't, I don't think I was sensitive to that until I started meditating and until my meditation practice went very deep and was very consistent. And I really rewired my brain to be sensitive to that subtle input of energy, of sense. And I know a lot of people haven't had the depth of, the meditation practice and the years of meditation practice that I have. So I know a lot of people who you do work on. And my dad is on this call, and I know he is an avid massage therapy um, consumer client. And he and I talk a lot about kind of the more subtle, and it's harder for him intellectually to understand sometimes what I'm talking about, but it's a cool conversation because you do a good job, um, helping bridge the gap and meeting people wherever they are. And I know we've talked in the past about sometimes you'll do massage therapy on people, and that's probably all that they got out of it. They maybe aren't aware of any of the deeper work. But my dad, I know when he gets massage, he is able to relax and see light and connect with some of the subtle experiences that go hand in hand with experiencing energy. So I thought that might be a fun thing to talk about.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Hello, Pam's dad. I didn't
That's
put
my
the
dad.
two and two together.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so wonderful to see you.
And then Marcia, I don't know if you ever met Marcia in the space.
I don't think so.
She usually
No.
came Mondays and Fridays. She's the other person on the call who is awesome. She's going to be involved in the retreat too. She may not
Oh,
know
that's
it yet, but
amazing.
she's going to be helping with like feng shui and design and
Oh,
that kind of
fantastic.
stuff. So yeah.
Which is so important. So, in terms of massage therapy and touch and the energetics behind it, it's interesting you say that because I've always said that I've used my hands and the aspect of physical touch as the portal for information, and whether it's either to receive information or to give information. So, and I think that's what people are more familiar with, the physical aspect of life as opposed to the energetics. But actually, it's the energetics that create the physical experience of life. So for those that are not very in tune with the energetics, I use physical touch as a means to communicate the energetics. So even though they may not be aware of any sort of energetic experience during our session, they just can't articulate it. But I know that they sense it, they feel it, they experience it, and it's sort of confirmed when they say, "I don't know what just happened," or "I don't know how to explain what you do." Because in their mind, in their physical experience, it was just massage, but yet there was something else that shifted for them. And that's essentially what we do, even in your space. And some people may think that it's a workout of some sense, but it's more than that. There is a cathartic experience that happens. So whether you're exercising this or you're moving through this, massage therapy also allows movement in that same way, even though you're completely, just receiving. It's a movement of the energies without you having to exert physical effort,
Mm.
which is what I love about the work. And so now trying to shift from that and not having my hands as the portal where I receive or give information. I'm like, okay, how can I find ways to communicate with clients? And I've been playing around with remote healing. And when I say playing around, of course, it's with an authorization from the client. And so,
Thought I felt something yesterday. I mean,
because you can't do this work without permission, right?
yeah.
So I've set up some sessions and we've practiced remote healing, and I've been playing around with what makes sense. And I want to be able to do this work in integrity. And so instead of jumping right into it and making this an offering of mine, when even though I feel able to do it, like I have the ability to do it, I don't want to offer it just yet until I've played around with the outcomes, my intentions, the working mechanisms of it, how I can speak to what the work is like. Because apparently the clients that I've had up until this point are so used to the physical aspect of our work, that they may not be the prime client for me moving forward into this more energetic space.
Mm.
So even though I'm trying to find ways to work with them from a distance, they're not as receptive because they're so used to the physical work.
Yeah, what we expect, or what, we get limited by our perceptions
Yeah.
and our belief, and it's hard to be open-minded when you have already a set of experiences around it. Now, would this be, is it Reiki? Reiki, I never say it right. Is that what
You
it
know,
is, or is it different?
it's different. So I come from a family lineage of healers. My grandfather was an energetic healer in the Philippines, and he worked with, I guess you want to say, ancestors, guides, that whole thing. But if I were to just use whatever normal terms, he was
We're not
whatever that
normal.
means.
That ship sailed. We're not normal. That's okay.
He was spiritually guided to be able to offer healing to people for all sorts of ailments, from really intense, acute ailments, grave issues, to more lighter. So he ran the whole gamut. So the work that I do was sort of anointed to me by him.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really spoke to that aspect of my work, although that is what informed what I've done all of these years. But again, I used massage therapy as sort of like my capacity to reach people. And I used his guidance to sort of allow me to look deeper into what was actually happening or presenting itself. Because, under any physical ailment, there's an emotional and spiritual component. And that is something that we don't always talk about in massage therapy. We work on range of motion, dysfunction, that sort of thing, but we don't talk about the emotional or spiritual aspect of what's happening. So that has sort of been the premise of the energy work. I just recently became Reiki certified, and I did that because people connect with the word Reiki so much more than
Well, it's
energy
another
healing.
box. Yeah, it's a box.
Yes.
It's a label, and people are people, and
Yeah.
it's actually, and Dad, I don't know if you know this, because I just learned this over the summer, but my grandmother told me that my great grandmother was a healer, and that people would come from all over and ask her to help their. Did you know that about great grandma, dad's mom? Yeah. See, my dad didn't even know. My grandmother was like, "Oh yeah, you didn't know that? People used to come from all over and have her heal. They'd bring their children. They'd bring whenever there was some ailment that they didn't know how to, and she would prescribe herbs or mantras or prayer, and she would heal people." That's what Grandma said, Dad.
Wow.
And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" Yeah, that explains a little of my strangeness. I don't know. But I know from my own experience, there's an ancestry, there is a lineage. It's all energy, it's all connected. I know so many of the things that I've healed are directly, I can pinpoint, oh, that was my dad's side of the family, my dad's dad, my dad's mom's mom, as soon as I think, I can't know it. But when I'm not thinking, I can know all of these weird facts. Some of it has been confirmed by some of my grandparents, where I'm like, I get the sense that something like this happened at some point, and then they confirm, oh yeah, this person was abused, or when they were whatever. And it's it's weird, right? There's no explaining it. And then whenever there's something that we don't um, we have trouble explaining, it makes us uncomfortable and we're afraid. And then when we're working with someone, them being open and them trusting us is imperative in order for there to be healing. That's my experience. And so getting certified in something that then gives someone some sort of, oh, okay, I get the sense that I can trust this person, and they're certified in this thing that I've heard of before. I'm going to give it a shot. I mean, the first time I met you, I could feel you. And I was like, oh my God, you're divine. And I mean, I can't imagine people who, aren't sensitive, they just can sense just how loving you are and how grounded you are. And there's a power in that. Like when someone is grounded in gratitude, in the wisdom of the earth, in the wisdom of ancestral, knowing, there's this rootedness, a power in that. And then when they're showing up in the present moment with love, there's a power in that. And then you can connect, and that's when healing happens. Because when I say healing, it's just a realization that you're never broken in the first place. Good news.
Yes.
You were
Yes.
never broken in the first place. And you,
Yes.
the experiences I've had with you in our sessions, ain't no way to explain it other than to say, I mean, you've helped me move through some really, really, really heavy things that I was carrying, and allowed me to let them go, put them down, and then all of a sudden had access to a lot more power. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you for saying that. It's interesting too, being in the wellness world for a very long time and having been a massage therapist since 2005. And before that, like working in the healthcare industry, I've stayed on top of like the way this business or this industry is trending. And they've said in the last couple of years or so that energy medicine is the medicine of the future. And the future meaning now, because that's what we're stepping into. And when we think of energy medicine, it runs this wide gamut of different modalities, from sound medicine to light medicine. And this is all stuff that people are now open to experiencing. So when it
There's
comes
more
to,
data behind it. There's more data now.
yes,
You say, well, we
yes,
don't exactly know why it works. We can't really explain, but we can absolutely say that this frequency of light causes the cells to do these things because we can
yes,
see that, and we don't know why or how, but now there's a lot more science, more evidence-based research to connect the dots of this energy medicine.
yes. And so now I think people are going to be more aware of the subtle aspect of distance or remote healing because they're more open due to having experienced sound healing and light healing and all of those other different modalities that are under the umbrella of energy medicine.
Mm. Yeah, I think there's definitely an openness because there's more research, because more
Mm-hmm.
energetic leaders are stepping forward saying, hey, I know this may sound nuts, and I know it's worked for me. You might as well try it and see if it works for you. See for yourself. Be your own scientist. I mean, that's what HACKD is all about, has been all about. I mean, when I first opened HACKD, a lot of the modalities that I was offering on the recovery side, I hadn't had that much experience with personally. And I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to stand behind them and with integrity say, these are things that I really, really believe in. I mean, it took me a year and a half before I went ahead and got the PEMF devices. And PEMF is another example of energy healing. We cannot explain why that works. I mean, I spent time with literally the NASA scientist who did all the research and created all of the programs for NASA. And I was so excited to spend time with him because I thought he was going to explain to me how the heck this works. He's like, oh, I have no idea. I just know it does. And I was like, damn it, because I'm very intellectual at the heart of me. I mean, I'm a recovered, overthinker, right? Where I want answers. I want to know how it works before I trust it. And once you get into quantum physics, it doesn't work. We can never really know. That's when you start studying quantum physics, you realize science will never be able to explain everything. It's been mathematically proven that it's impossible to know everything about our universe because it's constantly expanding / changing.
Yes.
And so mathematically, you can never know. The other thing that made my head hurt, it's mathematically been proven as well that nothing ever changes. I know. And this was, you would love this book because it combines science and philosophy and spirituality. It's called A Beautiful Question. It's written by Frank, tough last name, starts with a W, Nobel Prize winner in physics. So he's a Nobel Prize winning physicist who wrote this very philosophical but rooted in science book called A Beautiful Question. I still haven't gotten through the whole thing because this guy is too smart for me. It takes me some time to digest. And I think it was in the prologue of the book that he threw that little herring out that it's mathematically been proven that nothing ever changes. And it only is through deep meditation that I was able to integrate that into my knowing of what that means about this human experience. Because, I mean, we're experiencing this. I mean, science shows us the universe is constantly expanding, constantly changing. But what if our perception of time and space is just an illusion? So we're perceiving an illusion. At the heart of it, what is really true mathematically is that nothing ever changes. It's
Holy
everything and
shit.
nothing. I know. It's like shaking off some illusions as you look around. And
Yes.
yeah, so you'll
Wow.
like that book. But
Yes.
it all
So,
goes hand in hand, because once you really start understanding physics,
yeah.
quantum physics, it's
Yeah.
mind blowing. My other funny story, which I don't think I've told on these calls yet, some people have heard the story. I was reading Einstein's biography. It was like a children's version of Einstein's biography to my daughter, and we finished it one night, bedtime. And I, for some reason, decided that that was a good moment to explain to her some of the basic principles of quantum physics. You know, that it seems like we're here and it's dense, but really what's happening is everything's vibrating and it's 99.999% empty space. It's just, it's vibrating so slowly, it feels. So I'm explaining this all to her. I think she was like 8, and she understood it.
Wow.
So she freaked the fuck out. Like, she jumped up on the bed and she freaked out. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, that was a bad parenting move, like right before bedtime, to explain quantum physics to an 8-year-old who is sophisticated enough to understand the implications. Because the implications
Hmm.
are, ain't nothing like it seems. We have
Yeah.
this really beautiful illusion about what reality is. It's not
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Wow.
So you are very gifted in the realm of the deeper truths and the capacity to heal from a deeper place, not having to think our way through, but feeling our way, experiencing our way through to wholeness. As I say, healing is just the realization that we were never broken in the first place and it's all perfect, and we can relax. we can be at ease instead of in dis-ease.
Yeah. Thank
And
you,
you
Pam.
reflect that. You just your very being. Just seeing you
Thank
now,
you.
I'm like, oh, even though my last 24 hours have been a complete and utter shit show, and I have no idea what's going to happen next. That's all okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's going to
Yeah.
be painful, and it's okay. Pain isn't what I think it is anyway.
Yes.
You help me be brave.
Thank you. Thank you. And you helped me be very brave. Thank you, Pam.
Sure. What else are you doing right now? You're writing, you said. You're
Yeah.
meditating.
I'm
Are you
reading.
drawing, making music?
No, no music, no drawing. I'm conceptualizing a lot of things, although spirit keeps asking me to do nothing. And every time I want to do something like put together a program or develop an online course or something like that, spirit is like, nope, do nothing. I want you to do nothing. I'm like, okay. So it's been a really big lesson in doing nothing. However, I just started being more active with things. Spirit is sort of allowing me now to explore that space. And I've been teaching some classes
Mm,
and doing it for different fitness communities because I'm recognizing that because of all my experience in body work that I have a lot to share. And
yeah.
so even though I'm moving into more of remote healing and energy medicine, that there's a lot to offer when it comes to my skills. So I'm teaching self massage
Mm,
to different fitness communities because right
mm,
now everyone needs and wants massage. And
mm,
so I'm just teaching people ways how to massage themselves. And I'm
mm.
starting with upper body sessions, and they're 1 hour long. And then I'm going to do a lower body, which is 1 hour long. I did a breath work workshop, and nothing like we experience with Sage. It's more of like demystifying the different types of breathing techniques out there, like what's 478 breathing, what's box breathing, what's alternate nostril breathing. When would you use these different types of breathing techniques to sort of just empower people to know that they have options
Mm,
and they have tools that they can use, in an instant to sort of either shift their anxiety state, mental state, focus, relaxation, whatever it is they need in the moment, and using breath to do so. And I
mm,
also taught them how to release their own diaphragm to be
Mm.
able to access greater breath.
Can
So,
because, all right, let me lay this on you. So
mm,
as we already mentioned, I'm working on my anger, connecting with old anger and being, allowing myself to feel anger and let the anger flow while, being in a place of peace and love and joy. Could be joyful and angry at the same time, fortunately.
mhm,
I realized, one, I have definitely gotten a lot more release in my diaphragm. So I
yeah,
can take a belly breath and it can be smooth now in a way that it used to be spazzy. What I realized this week, I did a two-phase breath practice with Dan Brule, where we're used to that active inhale, so that active inhale, but we usually are practicing just that passive exhale, and we don't get down into the active exhale. And
mhm,
so we were practicing that, and I knew this from a while ago, but I had conveniently forgotten it. I have a really, really, really hard time in that lower part of an active exhale. My pelvic floor is like, I don't know where, my abs, like there's just not a smoothness to having an active. And then that's where I feel very connected to my right to be here, my right to be angry, this rooted in solidity of my right to life.
yeah.
So any tips you have on that? Because that's what I'm working on right now. And at first I was overactively using my upper muscles to exhale, and I actually pulled a muscle.
Mm.
Overactively trying to exhale from my upper muscles. So we're such complicated creatures.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually our body offering us support and help in that moment. So
Mm.
even though we're complicating the process by using the wrong muscles, our body's like, okay, she doesn't have this. Let's help her out.
Pam needs some help, which is true, everyone.
But it sounds to me more, and we've discussed this in our work before, is a tight pelvic floor and you
Mm.
having to find ways to release those muscles, because it takes the activation of the pelvic floor to do an active exhalation.
Mhm.
So if that pelvic floor is locked up, it doesn't have the capacity to expand and contract to support you in your exhale. It's always in that locked position. So
Mm.
finding ways to get that muscle to be more open and allow more movement, and even just imagining on your inhale it loosening and then on the exhale it contracting. Because without that opening, there is no capacity for it to contract if it's always in a contracted state.
Mm. Yeah, and it just feels all like dysfunctional. Like things just get
Mm-hmm.
reversed. And I finally have gotten
Yeah.
my diaphragm and my abs to properly expand. Like,
Mm-hmm.
diaphragm comes down,
Mm-hmm.
abdomen expands on the
Mm-hmm.
inhale. So I finally got that because I was reverse breathing most of my life, where when I breathed in, I would suck in my belly. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I remember learning that in yoga and being like, oh, I'm totally backwards. And then it took me a lot of practice before I could just breathe correctly without having to effort. But I feel like that's
Mm-hmm.
where I am now in my practice, where I need to effort to practice things being in the right concert, like that relaxation of the pelvic floor on the inhale, and then the contraction of the pelvic floor on the exhale. And there's more than one muscle down there. I mean, again, sorry
Yeah.
everybody, but there's muscles down there, and there's a bunch of them. It's like it's a mess. And
Yes.
I had two babies without drugs, so like
Yes, I've been studying a little bit about the pelvic floor and how the muscles in the pelvic floor resemble the muscles in our vocal cords and in our throat.
mm,
So there's a lot of connection between the stability and the security that we feel in the pelvic floor to our capacity to express ourselves. So that
totally. I
could
feel
be,
that.
yeah, so that could be another place for you to explore.
Yeah.
Having your pelvic floor to be more engaged is how you're able to better communicate.
Yeah. And this is important for men too. It's just not just a female conversation. You know,
Extremely important for men.
men's pelvic floor is just as important as a woman's.
Yeah.
We all have it. Just
Yeah.
different things that we do with it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I just, like you, I really have been prioritizing self-care and self-exploration and
Mhm.
trusting um, more stillness and noticing when, because it's certainly one of my coping mechanisms to be busy, to feel like I have control over something, that I will just be very busy. I found myself like somewhat compulsively, um, grocery shopping, for instance, like online grocery shopping. Like I was like, all right, I think we got enough, people. Like just because I can get another online delivery does not mean that I need it. Okay, chill. So just that self-awareness, and because this has been, I mean, an unparalleled challenge, and I believe it's going to continue to be. I don't, my heart, the spirit of this does not feel like it's going to get better before it gets worse, really. There may be little blips of things seeming to be better, but this, and the sense that I get is ultimately we have um, another series of big challenges to overcome, opportunities to rise coming. And I really think this period of quiet and this period of all of us doing our inner work and rooting more deeply into stillness, which is our ability to tune into our intuition and what our energy is naturally telling us. Like if we're able to integrate our gut, our heart, and our head, we
Yeah.
can feel what action to take. And like I can feel when my gut and my heart and my head are not integrated. My gut is saying one thing, my heart is saying something else, my head is saying a third thing, and ultimately they're all one. So how do we get them in line so we can trust our gut, our heart, and our head in a way that most of us aren't really able to
Mhm.
day to day, so we can be in flow through challenge, through work, discomfort,
Mhm.
growth,
Mhm.
all those things.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you, Pam. I feel like we're just in the opening of all of the changes that we're experiencing and going to be experiencing. I think that it's definitely, we're not through the worst of a lot of things. And it's all in an opportunity for us to experience a different way of life. You know, when you're elevating the collective consciousness and you're elevating the frequency of an entire planet, it's going to take a lot of dismantling as well. So being able to move through that this time right now is just reminding everyone that we have the capacity to move through it. We have the community. Let's rebuild our community so that we can do this together. Let's remind ourselves that we're not alone through this process. Let's remind ourselves that we have the tools, that we have connection to spirit, that we're connected to the land, and that we can be able to handle whatever is going to show up for us.
Yes, connecting with that capacity for resourcefulness
Mm-hmm.
and rebirth.
Yeah.
It's strangely, it's a very exciting time.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for what is to come. Although I can't remember who it was. I read something where it said the difference between, or no, they said, I'm going to mess up the quote, but they said something to the effect of fear is excitement without breath.
Mm.
And so if we keep breathing
Mm.
through fear, it's excitement.
Mm.
And um, it's an interesting paradox because I can certainly think of examples where it wouldn't resonate. Like when my mom was really sick and I was really afraid of her dying. It wasn't like on some level I was excited, and if I just breathed, I would have been excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the real most intense fears are our resistance to change, and what that change means. And so even in a case where we're dealing with something, where there's a lot of grief associated with it, and it seems insurmountable to connect with creativity or something we would be excited about creating on the other side of that change. I do think energetically and philosophically it still holds, because even if, heaven forbid, like looking at the death of a parent, um, it's going to force a lot of growth. Even, at the time I was 16. So if a 16-year-old were to lose, a parent, that 16-year-old is going to be forced to go through something that is going to, in some ways, require excitement, require that energy of growth, eventually. And we may resist that and stay in a dormant state, holding that grief and resisting that growth, resisting that change for quite some time. Then that's potential energy versus kinetic energy, right? Locked up energy in our body, staying in a state of dis-ease, resisting something that is. Which is cool when you connect the dots on emotions, from that place of energetic, like that emotion is energy in motion, and all it is energy that knows to move. And if we resist that and block it and say, no, I don't want to feel that, I don't want to experience it, and so we block it, that's just staying in us still as potential energy. And that's when I love talking about the ancestral stuff, because all of us have that blocked emotional baggage that either in our own life we didn't want to deal with, or didn't have the capacity to deal with, better word, or our ancestors before us didn't have the capacity to deal with, so they put it on us. If I don't deal with it, I'm going to put it on my kids, and it just keeps getting passed on, and it's just potential energy, like a spring wound up, ready to go. And then if we're able to release it, we suddenly have access to a great deal of kinetic energy, to be light, to be loved, to be brave, to be creative.
Yes.
That's my experience. I was just saying to my aunt this morning, I talked to Aunt Mary Beth this morning for a while, Dad, and I was saying to her this kind of very thing, that I'm really, really grateful to our ancestors for their trials, for their struggles, because they were holding something and then passed it on to us, which gave us the opportunity in this lifetime to release it and have access to this higher degree of power. There's a lot of gratitude and forgiveness and peace that I feel for some of the kind of, tougher stuff ancestrally.
That's beautiful.
You are beautiful. You have something sparkly on you. I don't know what it is, but I love it. You have a prism.
I have I have a prism, my window, and this is where I sit and meet with clients, and I have my backdrop, and I have limited space in this household, so I've created a studio in my bedroom.
I love it. Well, let's I want to give everybody an opportunity, Marcia and Dad, to ask questions. And we're going to share we're going to share this eventually. But people can best find you on your website, Geraldine Abergas, so Abergas. And Marcia, Dad, if you have any questions or comments, I will shut up and let you talk to Geraldine, because she is radiant and incredibly practically helpful.
I actually wanted to ask you, so now, are you finding, for instance, that you can still do that, healing work, energy work, through, for instance, Zoom calls and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's really interesting being able to tune into a person's bioenergetic field is still very possible on Zoom or even on the phone. I don't even have to see them. I can sort of just tune into their field and connect with them in that way, and I could feel within my field that person's energetic space. So I've been playing around with a couple of things. Seeing them visually, or just talking to them on the phone, or just assigning a time and they would just find a place of comfort and lay down, and I would sit in meditation and I would offer healing that way. So 3 different ways, and I've been trying to find which way works best, but I have found that they all work differently, and I think it's important for me, the practitioner, to be able to tell my client what they need the most. Like, I need to see you, or I need to hear your voice, or we don't need that at all. Just choose a time and lay in silence, and I'll offer the healing in that way. And there are different aspects that I can offer support. So sometimes it's something as easy as, there's energy in your shoulder that needs to move. I offer this stretch or this sort of self massage, or I'll offer them some sort of like visualization, whether it be a color or sound. And they'll either imagine a color in that particular area, and that would offer some sort of release. And then the physical aspect of the work I do, I'll offer them some sort of like mobility or some movement that needs to take place to sort of anchor in that new energetic context that they're in. So I really need to continue to play around with it before I feel fully versed in offering it to people. But I'm happy to just offer it and get feedback because it's been really wonderful.
You are wonderful.
Thank you.
So wonderful.
I had a couple of questions earlier, and sort of like stew of thoughts rolling around in my head, so I'll try to be succinct. What makes perfect sense to me, in a very basic level, there's an analogy here that came to mind, like sitting with a psychologist, right? And that person is not going to answer my questions for me, but they'll guide me, right, to really do self-healing. So it makes sense to me, even without, and I do accept the energy level thing too, but even without that, it makes sense to me that you could guide somebody through, at least in part, like what you just said, and help them visualize how to heal themselves. I mean, you said earlier too, in panels talking about a lower diaphragm question. We have the ability, even though we're not aware of it. So I think that's where the guidance comes in, right? Is to have us figure out how to help heal ourselves. And on a different plane too, what I've found, and Pam's right, I mean, I've had some really phenomenal modalities and therapies and results from various massage therapists over the years. And what I've come to accept is that I'm lazy, right? And that,
Not lazy.
So, well, yeah. I think my point is that there's a constructive other thing that you offer, right? Is that little added discipline. So for instance, if I had somebody to go to the gym with, I was going to meet them at a certain point, a certain time. So you have an appointment, you have a commitment, and then to my point about being lazy is like, I have a foam roller here, right? And I have and could get other physical tools that would help me, but A, to have the discipline, to have a time set up to do it, B, to be encouraged, right? And build that self-confidence that I have somebody help me there to guide me through it. I think even for an old white retired electrical engineer, it actually makes a lot of sense to me. So I don't know if you needed that validation and that verification, but it made sense to me too.
Thank you for that. That does make a lot of sense in terms of the accountability piece, because many of us know how to self-soothe in many ways, right? But do we make time for that? So when it comes to recovery or regeneration in that sense of like self-massage and self-healing, we all have the capacity to offer that to ourselves, but do we? And do we make time for that? And then the other piece that you said in terms of the healing aspect and being able to offer guidance, I have found that sometimes it's not the work, even though people might think that it's my skill set or presence. Sometimes it's just having a place where you can actually say that you're in pain and the other person actually listens and just may not even offer anything and just actually listens to you. That in itself is when the healing happens.
Quantum physics says because you are there and you're paying attention, it's like the tree that falls in the forest, there's no one to hear it, does it make a sound? Your presence, because you are holding space and loving and paying attention, that is creating a reflection, because the real, you and I know, the real thing that we're ultimately healing is this sense of disconnection. We feel so disconnected from all, I'll use the word all, from life, from each other, from the earth. and having someone who is showing up with that power, the power of attention, the power of love, the power of clarity and wisdom. It's you. It's you. I'm telling you, it's you. And I will say it's me as well, because
Yes.
I know that I have that as well.
Yes.
I don't really practice. I just know that sometimes people just start crying, and I'm like, it's okay. People cry with me sometimes. And to me, crying is a good sign. It means that there's something that has been released. And so if I'm just getting coffee one day and I make some authentic, heartfelt comment to the cashier about, you know, that they're beautiful and I love them. Sometimes I say weird things like that to baristas randomly, and then they start to cry. I think it's just, you know, there is a presence. You are reflecting back something that then allows the other to remember it in themselves, you know. And that's healing. That's that realization. It's like bam.
Yeah.
And it's you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
And you too, Pam, too.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
I met you in the gym sometimes, and it's just like either you started to cry or you had like this amazing energy, or just with an you know, it's really, it's.
Yeah, there's just an authenticity. There's just an authenticity to the being, you know, whatever the emotion may be. Sometimes the emotion is grief, or the emotion is happiness, or the emotion, whatever the emotion may be, or maybe there's really no emotion. It's just the spiritual presence of joy or love or peace. But those high frequencies are like tuning forks. And sometimes people don't even know what the hell just happened. They're like, I can't tell you the number of people they're like, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm like, it's okay. You don't need to know. Don't even be in your head. Just let that flow, and you'll feel better later. It'll be good. It'll be cathartic that you got something out. You don't even need to know what it is. Big fan of crying. I cried a lot yesterday. I cried a little today. Cried a lot yesterday. And not only did I cry a lot yesterday, I also had a new personal record on the row. I was at HACKD. I was cleaning up, and I was like, I'm gonna get on the machine. And I put on music. You know what song I put on while I personal record my row, like the strongest, like 360 pounds, higher than I've ever done on this machine. Andre Bocelli's "Time to Say Goodbye." It was like,
wow.
and I went into my kind of strongest resistance right as it like crescendoed, and I was just like, yeah, it's time to say goodbye, motherfucker. And I was just like, oh, and I personal record like 15% higher than before. It was good. It's weird.
Wow.
It's like emotions, allowing our emotions to flow directly gives us more power. Period.
Yes.
Let that stuff out.
Well, I hope you find a way to be in New York City.
I'm so open. I am.
Oh, we need you.
Yeah, I'm certain that I'm going to find a landlord who wants this in their space and is willing to work, you know, with me in like a strategic partnership, because I mean, New York City is going to need help coming back.
Yeah.
Like New York City is not okay. It is not going to just be okay. And so there's going to be landlords that want to help New York City come back and want to help allow services to be offered in a way that isn't really financially viable. And I don't know when it's going to be. Like, I did my survey and my clients, and like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to have a viable business model. Like, as I'm, you know, at the end of the day, this is it has to be sustainable. Money is a symbol of energy. It's a symbol of value exchange. You give what you get. And then it has to be in an ecosystem that's sustainable. And that's one of the things humanity obviously clearly is, you know, the amount of things that are out of balance and unsustainable with how we behave. And, you know, there's going to be people that are driven not by money and fear, but are driven by helping New York come back. And they're going to be willing to partner with entrepreneurs, business owners who otherwise couldn't, you know, pay rent at these old rates. And even some people are talking about, oh, they think it's going to be like a 30%, you know, concession. It's not enough. Like, are you on drugs? Like, this is not a 30% impact on revenue. Like,
Yeah.
that's not what this is. Like, let's be honest, this is catastrophic.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no timeline when businesses, like, when you watch how other countries are reopening, other states are reopening in the phases, you know, that, okay, restaurants can reopen, but they can only serve outside. Well, like, what's it? You know, it's, you know, like one of the things we were talking about in my family was, there a way that I could set up HACKD to be outside? No. The answer ultimately was like, no. This is just like, no. And there'll be other things that can be outside. So there's going to be, you know, exercise classes and activities and outdoor dining. It's just, there's a lot of real estate. There's a lot of how New York has been operating that there's no clarity on when that's going to be viable, and how much investment and infrastructure is going to need to be invested in order to make it viable. Because there's going to be a launching pad. There's going to be a period where maybe revenues will be 20% of what they were. Maybe then they'll get to 33%. And then maybe then they'll get to 50%. And then maybe we're going to have to shut down again because there's another outbreak. And then they're back to zero. You know, it's like, how does someone run a business in that environment? Like my business. Just can't. So I'm creating an online business and basically launching a whole new business. It's going to be online. My same values of empowering, inspiring, and supporting, and sharing everything that I know about biohacking and health and wellness and my whole ethos. I'm working on the retreat center because I do think that a retreat business is going to be more viable sooner. And I love the idea of setting up a sustainable community. So if things get really bad again, everybody's welcome. Marcia, you're going to be artisan. Geraldine, Dad, like, everyone's going to be on the farm. We're all going to be on the farm.
I'll be there.
And we're going to have different jobs, and we're all going to have our little homes on the farm, and it's going to be great. So we'll be together.
I'll be there.
So yeah, so I don't know what the story is with New York City. I just don't know. I just don't know. And that's okay. I'm okay not knowing. And I'm grieving. I cried so much yesterday. You know, there's a lot of appropriate sadness, and I was grateful while I was sad. Like, I was sad and I was grateful and I was strong. Like, it's cool how you can be both. You can have these emotional releases and stay really rooted spiritually, energetically while we do it. And so being sad, grieving, being scared, confused, like all those things absolutely can coexist. Being rooted in gratitude, being rooted in peace. You can be peaceful and sad. You can be peaceful and angry. You can be loving and angry. So I've been practicing being angry and loving. It's kind of funny.
Well, if you need help, you know, I can walk there.
Thank you. Alan is going to come tomorrow morning super early and start helping. It's also tricky because my husband doesn't want me to be in a shared space with anyone. So how do I move out of HACKD while not being in the space with anyone else?
Well, now I have the antibodies, so
I know you and Alan both have the antibodies.
yeah, exactly.
And you still need to be, you know,
careful.
safe.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so there's a lot of navigating right now, and it's forcing us all. Well, it's giving us all the opportunity to elevate, whether we do it now. Like, another great thing to talk about. I'm sorry, we're chatting so long, but 9/11. You know, 9/11 was the last really big thing like this. Obviously, well, not obviously, but you know, 9/11. I was 24, about to turn 25. I didn't have the spiritual skills that I have now. So I didn't have the capacity to be sad, be scared, be angry, and be grateful and be at peace and be loving. I was a fucking mess. I was terrified. I was upset. I mean, I lost friends and heartbroken and scared, and I wasn't angry because I was still blocking all of my anger. So I wasn't angry. But it was years and years and years later, through this last 6 years of spiritual kind of awakening and work, that I had to go back, had the opportunity to go back and release the emotions from 9/11 that were still trapped in me. And so for a lot of people, that's what this experience is going to be. It's going to be something that either later on in their lifetime or in their children's lifetime, they're going to have the opportunity to process and release the sadness. There's a lot of appropriate sadness, a lot. If we're not feeling sadness periodically, that shows something's not right. It's like we're not able to hug our people. I'm a hugger. Like I said, Dad, when was the last time I hugged you? So I think this has just been an amazing opportunity for humanity, and it just is what it is. Moving out is what it is. And Geraldine, I'm so grateful for you for taking the time. I definitely recommend everyone follow Geraldine, because she is just a ray of light and wisdom and a lot of practical, like she shares a lot of the self-massage things. They're very practical. So you don't need to join us in the woo of the energy. You can be very practical and just try the stuff for yourself and report back how you feel. You know, try one of her videos and see how you feel. Listen to her talk, see how you feel. It's good stuff.
Geraldine, are you on Instagram? Or?
I am Geraldine.Abergas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll find you.
I look forward to connecting with you, Marcia. And Mike.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So grateful. It's so good to see you. I mean, I'm soaking it up. Really appreciate you. Marcia, Dad, so nice to see you both. I love you. I'm going to go back to work.
Thank you.
In the garage and at HACKD.
Yes.
Lots of love.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks
Bye.
again, sweetie. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
You also.